Breaking right now at 5, you're looking live outside the Milwaukee County Public Safety Building as a group there has gathered to hear from the family of Alvin Cole. The family has just learned in the last couple of hours or so, as we have just learned in a 14-page letter from the Milwaukee County District Attorney John Chisholm, that no criminal charges will be filed against Wauwatosa police officer Joseph Mensah in the death of Alvin Cole. That shooting, according to the district attorney, was not criminal, and the district attorney determined he could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt anything criminal was done by Officer Joseph Mensah that night in the parking lot outside the Cheesecake Factory at Mayfair Mall. We have a number of reporters covering this right now. I believe we have Tom Durian outside the courthouse, outside the public safety building, where the district attorney was speaking with the Cole family. Can we get in touch with Tom?
Steve?
Tom Durian reporting from his home reviewing this letter. Tom, yes.
Yeah, just going through that right now, Steve, and going through the letter, and a lot of this is going to focus around video that was available that we have not seen yet. We've seen some of the video in the past that came into the newsroom back after this happened. That was released by the Wauwatosa Police Department, and they showed some dash cam video. As we know in the last few days that the Wauwatosa police officers do not have body cameras. So this was dash cam video of a cruiser that was parked in the area that showed a little bit about what happened as you look at the family coming out right now. I'm continuing to go through this letter, as you mentioned, that was just released moments ago, looking at the video that is attached to it as well. And I'll get back to you as soon as I go through it. I know you guys are handling what's happening right now outside the county courthouse, Steve.
All right, we're going to keep an eye on this shot right now as the family of Alvin Cole is working their way down the steps right there. Under state law, prosecutors cannot bring a charge against somebody unless they believe they can prove that charge in court. John Chisholm, in his 14-page letter that we're all going through right now, says that upon reviewing all the evidence here, he sees nothing criminal on the part of the police officer, Joseph Mensah. He said that Alvin Cole was in possession of a stolen 9mm handgun that night, along with multiple rounds of ammunition and an extended clip. He said that weapon was brandished as officers were running away. We know from another independent report that was released earlier today that Alvin Cole actually shot himself with that gun as he was running away from officers. Let's listen in now as the family of Alvin Cole now comes to the microphones to talk about what they heard from the DA.
I want to thank y'all for showing us support during this grieving time. At this time, Chisholm did not justify my son's murder by Joseph Mensah. Once again, he could not he said he could not really justify it.
Turn that camera off!
It's fine.
It's fine.
What camera? There's like a million cameras.
So basically, that's what's going on right now. He couldn't make a decision about or anything, so that's all I have to say.
I guess I'll talk. Just like what my mom said, DA Chisholm did not justify this shooting, which means Alvin did not shoot at Joseph Mensah. Joseph Mensah is not a credible source in this case right now. Joseph Mensah and Jay Anderson case and Antonio Gonzalez case has lied several times. And from the investigators who released their reports today, they not only said that Joseph should be fired immediately, but he is not credible. He was not credible in Jay Anderson's case. So he would not be credible in Alvin Cole's case. So DA Chisholm needs to try harder. It might sound good, but DA Chisholm got to do better. It's been 20 years, 20 plus years as a DA. And you have been the same. You have showed the same. You show your bias. All these black families walking in here to meet with you about their loved one that has been killed by Joseph Mensah. And you have yet to not justify it. But you stated that you did not justify this shooting. So I want to hear you say that publicly. Joseph Mensah should not be working. It should have never been working after Antonio Gonzalez. He should have never been working before Antonio Gonzalez. Because from our knowledge, Joseph have a death before Antonio Gonzalez. That no one knows about, that is sealed. Yeah, I'm gonna talk my shit.
All right, now.
Pretty much. You know, I want to thank all y'all for being out here, for real, for supporting us, for holding us down. We heard y'all from up there. I was shouting y'all. I was saying, DA Chicken, Alvin Cole up there. You know what I mean? Best believe I was on his ass. He a fraud. I don't know what much to say, y'all, right now. But the fight continues. I tell you that, it doesn't end here. It doesn't end here. We got to make sure Joseph is fired immediately. We got to make sure he don't get a job ever again as a police officer, because it ain't nothing for him to transfer and go somewhere else. Especially knowing Weber is going to write him a report. Right? We don't need that. We don't need that. And it's time for D.A. Chisholm to retire or to step down. Because it's been too much shit. He been sweeping under the rug. I see a motherfucking lump. I see a lump in that rug that he's been sweeping everything under. It's time to expose that stuff.
Take the cover off for him. Expose.
It's time to expose what's under that rug. Because it's too much. And it's time for you to let the public know what's going on. Because we coming for your job next. Alvin Cole did not shoot Joseph Mensah. He did not shoot at Joseph Mensah. Alvin Cole was in a 6-point stance. Joseph Mensah was the last to arrive on the scene when he shot Alvin twice. Then 3 more times while he was laid flat on the ground.
That's murder.
Face down.
That's murder.
In the back. You cannot justify that. But the media don't want you to know that. The media not putting that in the media. They not putting my brother scream, no gun. No gun, no gun. But he all of a sudden shot 4 days later. You gonna know if a motherfucker shot at you that same day. That mother freaker, excuse my language. That motherfucker, yeah. You gonna know that person shot the first day. It took them 4 days to come up with this presentation to try to discredit my brother's character. Took them 4 days. And only Joseph said he shot at him. No other cop said Alvin shot at Joseph. No other cop. Only Joseph.
Fuck Joseph Mensah.
All right. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming and take this down. I know it's not safe, but it's been a day. So let's talk about what happened today. All right? So the investigator with the Fire and Police Commission determined that Joseph Mensah is not fit for duty as an officer. Page 47 of the investigator's report, he specifically said what the families and we have been saying for months. is that Alvin Cole never shot at Officer Mensah, and Alvin Cole never shot at any officers, period. And that's page 47. In addition to that, the investigator said that there is just cause to terminate Officer Mensah as an officer. Now, that report was mostly based on the Jay Anderson case. With regards, thank you. Had Officer Mensah been terminated 4 years ago when he shot and killed Jay Anderson, then Alvin Cole would be here today. Had he not been an officer, now Alvin Cole would be here. Now what DA Chisholm has done is he's decided that he is not issuing any charges.
Fuck Chisholm.
However,
Hold on, let her talk.
Chisholm did not say that the shooting was justified. And that's really important, because normally for these things, if he believes that, he will say that. He did not say that Officer Mensah shooting Alvin Cole was justified. We are not done fighting. We are still going to fight. We are still going to fight for a conviction of Officer Joseph Mensah. That's facts. We're not going anywhere. And we want you guys to continue to follow us, because this is really, really important. Today, not only was Officer Chauvin now out free, but Joseph Mensah is also out free. And both of them should be locked up. Right? Thank you. Sorry.
What do you make of the fact that Officer Mensah did not?
You've been listening to the attorney for the family of Alvin Cole, Kimberly Motley, who is speaking there with reporters. First, we want to apologize for some of the language there. Obviously, emotions are running high. The family members of Alvin Cole just getting this information moments ago from the Milwaukee County District Attorney that the officer, Joseph Mensah, will not be charged in this incident where Alvin Cole died after that shooting outside Mayfair Mall back in February. Again, there is this multiple-page report that was put out by the District Attorney's Office. It's actually a letter to Chief Weber of the Wauwatosa Police Department, where it is going through step by step the reasons why they came to this decision. Many of them, Steve and I are both reading this right now and going through it as we're talking with you here. A lot of it centers on the fact that Alvin Cole had this 9mm weapon, that he fired it during a foot pursuit with the police officers, as we know, and as they mentioned here. Independent investigators say that Alvin Cole ended up shooting himself during that and not shooting at an officer. That's what the independent investigator says. The Wauwatosa Police Department's position has been all along that a gun was fired at the police officers, and that is why Officer Mensah fired his duty weapon, striking Cole, and of course he later died. So it is focusing on that fact that he had the gun, also looking at several different videos in the area there, from Cheesecake Factory to the Nordstrom. And so, Steve, I know you're reading through this right now. I'm reading through it as well, and we'll continue to watch what happens there at the courthouse.
Yeah, Tom, we'll keep an eye on this live picture from outside the public safety building while you and I go through this. A lot of things were said by Alvin Cole's family and his attorney here in the past 10 minutes or so. Some of them colorful, some of them they put forward as facts, and we just need to work through some of those things. It is correct that in this 14-page letter, the DA, John Chisholm, says nothing about the justification of this shooting. That was not the DA's job here in this case. The DA was not to determine whether the shooting was justifiable or not. The DA looks at the evidence to determine whether there is sufficient evidence that Officer Mensah had the belief that deadly force was necessary. And he could not determine other than that. after looking at the totality of evidence, the DA, John Chisholm, could not determine that Officer Mensah did not need to use self-defense here in this moment. What we do know is that Alvin Cole was in possession, according to the DA, and that independent report we saw earlier in the day, of a firearm, a 9mm pistol that was reported stolen in December. He brought that pistol inside Mayfair Mall, where there was an altercation with some other individuals. Security and police were called, and Alvin Cole then started to run across the parking lot. As he's running across the parking lot near the Cheesecake Factory, according to the police reports we have, Alvin Cole removed the firearm from a shoulder bag, a fanny pack type bag. While he was removing that gun, either accidentally or on purpose, a shot was fired from that gun. As police are pursuing Alvin Cole through the parking lot, they hear a gunshot come from Alvin Cole's gun. That gun was not pointed at police at the time, but in the dark of the parking lot, we don't know what anybody saw. We do know that bullet, though, hit Alvin Cole in the arm. Alvin Cole at that point drops to the ground. At this point, we actually have some video and other things we're going to need to go through to stitch together a better picture of what happened here. But according to DA Chisholm's report and the independent investigator's report we saw earlier today, there were multiple commands shouted by officers at Alvin Cole to get rid of the gun in one way or the other. Alvin Cole, according to the officers on the scene, 3 different officers are quoted in this 14-page report from the district attorney. 3 different officers, not just Officer Mensah. 3 officers testified that Cole pointed the gun in their direction. And then Officer Mensah fires 5 times, and Alvin Cole is shot dead there in the parking lot outside the Cheesecake Factory at Mayfair Mall. So those are some of the facts as we know them from the various reports we have seen today. We heard 2 different things discussed here with this group of Alvin Cole's family and his supporters outside the public safety building. The first was released around the lunch hour. That was the report of an independent investigator. Carol Meekin's joining me now for our live coverage here. That independent investigator, Carol, was yes. Former U.S. Attorney Biskupik, who looked at this case to see if Officer Mensah was okay to return to work, was one of the big things he had determined there. And he determined that Officer Mensah was not fit for duty after this, his 3rd fatal on-duty shooting. And then the second
the third one in 5 years, and that's something that the family is very upset over. They want some answers as to what has transpired today. We have reporters all over this story, and we are following it from all angles. Our Lauren Lender is live outside the Milwaukee County Safety Building, where it has been a very emotional afternoon, and people really have gathered. We've got the National Guard there, and a lot of people really say this has been something that they have been waiting for months. Can you tell us what the scene is like right now, Lauren?
Well, Carol Earl, right now, the family and their attorney is actually still answering some questions during this time, so it is actually pretty quiet outside the public safety building. But right before we learned the decision and we saw some movement inside the public safety building, it was getting very intense out here, and there was a pretty rowdy scene with people trying to get inside the building. Finally, though, the people moved back. The family finally came out, and they were able to address the media about this decision. And what Alvin Cole's mom, Tracy, says is that DA Chisholm did not justify her son's death. I think that she thinks that that's the most important thing to get across here, is that he did not justify her son's death. The family, there is, though, kind of an emotional scene out here as we've been waiting months for this decision and have learned more about the officer involved in this shooting. Officer Joseph Mensah, as we said, who has been involved in 3 fatal shootings in the past 5 years. The family and the attorney and the public were all hoping that the district attorney would take all of that into consideration in his decision. Obviously, his decision ended up coming out to say that he will not charge Officer Joseph Mensah. The family, in talking to the media and addressing their supporters out here, said that the fight continues. It doesn't end here, and they did make sure to address that independent investigators' findings for the Wauwatosa Police and Fire Commission. in terms of Officer Mensah's job status. The fact that that investigator ruled that Officer Mensah should be terminated from the department because of an extraordinary risk of a potential fourth fatal shooting. And they also did make sure to mention, as Steve was talking about, the situation regarding a gun. Police have been saying time and again that Alvin Cole had shot at Officer Mensah, fired a shot as he was being chased by police and ran away from them. But in this independent, in this report from that independent investigator, they say that Cole didn't fire a gun at Officer Mensah and instead shot himself in the arm as he ran away from officers. The family and their attorney really wanted to mention that point here and feel that that was should have been considered by the DA in his decision making. Of course, we're still sifting through the whole reasoning behind the DA's decision, but right now that's what we are hearing from the family, and they do say that they're going to continue fighting to get justice, not just for Alvin Cole, but for other young black men who have been in similar situations with police. We'll continue to monitor the situation out here. Right now, all remains peaceful with people chanting and a little bit and obviously upset about this decision. But for now, we'll send it back to you, Carol and Steve.
Lauren, thank you very much. You know, a lot of people still concerned, especially the family, over that independent decision and the results that they found out through that panel. So right now we're going to go to Stephanie Haynes. She is outside the police building, administration building, I believe. And Stephanie, what can you tell us from that vantage point?
Carol, quite a different scene from where Lauren's at right now. She's in Milwaukee. We are in Wauwatosa outside the police building. It's very quiet here, save for some traffic going by on the road. I do want to point out the fencing that is surrounding the perimeter of the police department. Very tall fencing. It's locked up. It's sort of what you saw in Kenosha, just to keep crowds away from the building, to have that perimeter up around it. Otherwise, it's very, very quiet here. It's a normal day in the neighborhood, it seems. I see quite a lot of people walking around, walking their dogs. There's normal traffic. Otherwise, out here, there's just me and a few other reporters. We're going to keep an eye on it here because a curfew has been implemented in Wauwatosa. That's in less than 2 hours. It starts at 7 p.m. And so we'll see if people abide by that curfew or if there's any sort of activity that picks up around here in Wauwatosa. But Carol, for now, I'll send it back to you.
Stephanie, we should point out that there has been a lot of criticism from some of the businesses in that area about putting up that fencing in anticipation of something that had not yet happened. And a lot of people actually signed a letter complaining about that decision. But as you see, the fencing is there. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
And before we move on to Tony Atkins here, we just got an email from the Wauwatosa Police Department. I want to share a bit of that with you. This references the report that was released earlier today by the independent investigator. Chief Weber in Wauwatosa says the Fire and Police Commission was provided with the independent investigator's report regarding the proceedings involving Officer Joseph Mensah. Chief Weber and his command staff will review this report. However, they have no other comment on this matter at that time. Again, that's the report from the independent investigator saying that Joseph Mensah should be terminated. Let's get live back out to Tony Atkins. He's at Mayfair Mall. There's a significant law enforcement and National Guard presence at the mall tonight to protect the businesses there. Tony, tell us more.
That's right, Steve. As Stephanie mentioned just a few moments ago, that curfew, the sun's beginning to set, and right now some businesses are starting to take precautions and protect what they may have. Just a few moments ago, as we waited and as we heard from the family of Alvin Cole, we noticed that folks over at that Barnes & Noble began boarding up. Some other Mayfair businesses have begun boarding up as well, but right now, just a few minutes ago, we saw the Barnes & Nobles being boarded up. Now, in my last hit around 4:30, one thing I did show you was as the barricades were being set up at the entrance point to Mayfair Mall here along Mayfair Road, we saw the barricades being placed down. Now you can see those Humvees. The National Guard presence continues to grow. Again, this is Mayfair Road near the mall. This is where the shooting happened, the epicenter of everything from that incident on February 2nd. Now, we are still out here monitoring the situation. We haven't seen any protesters out here yet, but we're going to stay out here to keep an eye on things here at Mayfair, where the shooting happened back in February, in case there is any protest or any events that happen here throughout the evening as this curfew is implemented at 7 o'clock tonight. For now, reporting live in Wauwatosa along Mayfair Road, Tony Atkins, TMJ4 News.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much. And we are getting a reaction from people all over the area. Wauwatosa's mayor just released this statement calling for peace, quote, saying, "I ask all people, regardless of their viewpoints, to remain peaceful and calm as we work our way through this difficult time. We must keep each other safe." And I think all of us can agree that peace is what we need.
And Wauwatosa Police says the shooting of Alvin Cole is under internal administrative review, and they are examining the performance of all the police personnel involved. Again, Officer Mensah remains on administrative suspension pending proceedings with the Fire and Police Commission. Again, we know the Fire and Police Commission there learned today their independent investigation concluded that Mensah should be terminated.
And Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley is also calling for more accountability for police officers following today's decision. He says in this statement, quote, "Municipalities must act quickly to adopt the tools and best practices that increase police accountability, like body cameras. We cannot put a cost on human lives or delivering justice to communities of color. We must put our money where our mouth is and take the steps to invest in the protection and success of our Black residents."
Again, we will continue to follow the reaction to the district attorney's decision in the case of Officer Joseph Mensah throughout our newscast tonight. You can also find the latest 24/7 through the website tmj4.com and through all of your streaming devices.